Aaron, welcome to Russia.
Great, great.
How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing fine.
Great. We love your book.
Thank
We
you.
love the Austrian School of Economics. We love your book. I wanted to ask you some questions.
Sure.
By way of introduction, to introduce you, to ask you some of the questions directly out of that book.
Okay.
All right. One of the questions you ask all the people in your book is
It's very clever.
Very clever. Well, I don't know. It's clever.
Okay.
Is what fascinates you with Bitcoin?
I love the idea that you don't need the middleman, that you don't need to trust in anybody, not the bank, not the governments, nobody. That's all completely trustless. It's really people to people. I find that the idea completely fascinating. I think it will change the world for better.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. That's the thing. And how did you yourself get involved with Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think different from most people. I think most people, they're somehow fascinated by maybe the software or whatever. Then they ask themselves, okay, what's money and what's a monetary system? Most people don't.
That's what happened to me. Actually, I became interested in the Austrian School of Economics first.
Yes. Okay. And with me it was like that. I was first also interested in the monetary system, the criticism about it, also in school. And then about 2 years later, Bitcoin popped up the first time in mainstream media. That was about 2011. I was very interested, but I was also very skeptical because I thought, with that Austrian background, should it be backed by gold or silver or something? So in the beginning, I was really skeptical. Also, the Bitcoin went down for half a year when I discovered it, so it looked like a kind of failed project in the beginning. So I could have invested when it was at $2, but I didn't. While I was too skeptical.
We're all kicking yourself.
It took me a while. No, not really. I mean, you really don't. You stop. Having all these bad thoughts about it. I should have done this, should have done this. No, you really get rid of all these ideas. But actually, how I started into it was a film project. I wanted to make some kind of a collaborative film project with many filmmakers working on the same topic, and then we would edit everything together. We never realized that. I think it was probably a bad idea. But the idea was to make a film about money. It was in the middle of the financial crisis, 2008, a little later, and also we thought it's a topic that everybody can somehow relate to. Yeah?
Well, everybody loves money, or everybody has a relationship with money.
Everybody has a story. So we thought, and then I had to. I mean, just out of my own interest, I read many books about it. I interviewed people, lots of Austrian economists, and that's how I got into it. I mean, I have that story with it. I remember when I was at film school in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. I made a little animated film of 1 minute, which was called Dinheiro, which is money. It was with animated coins, and there was even the final scene which was hand-drawn on banknotes. It was a very expensive film then. And it was more like a fun thing. Yeah? It was more like just a funny film, nothing very deep or so, I thought. But if you look back at it, it can be seen as a metaphor on inflation. It was in hyperinflation times in Brazil. So somehow I have this relation to money in a way as a topic for maybe all my life, I don't know. So I dived deeper and deeper into that. And first I was skeptical, but then I met so many cool people, and I went to the first Bitcoin conferences, and then I decided to really focus all my activities on that. So also the film company Bitfilm, which was there before Bitcoin, but we didn't even have to change the name, and now everybody thinks, okay, we are the Bitcoin film company. Yeah?
Very good. Interesting. Very interesting. So, you're the founder of this Bitfilm. What are your other activities in the sphere? You're in the past you've been associated with the Bitcoin Foundation. You have some kind of connection to that?
No, I don't.
No. Okay, well, I thought that was a mistake there. Okay, great. We'll cut that out. You've written a book. You've written several books.
I wrote 2 books.
Okay, tell us about your books.
Well, the first book I wrote in late 2014, early 2015, where Bitcoin was really, really down. But I wanted to write a book anyway. It's really a book for beginners. I mean, it's called The Beginner's Guide to Bitcoin Austrian Economics. Really like.
And that one's in English. That one's in English and available on PDF for download all over the place. So get yourself.
Yeah, I think you can get it on Amazon in print. Yeah, I mean, my publishing house is in Germany, so I wrote it in German. It was published in English, but it sells quite okay in German. English, we didn't do any marketing for that. But the second book, I think that will be better. It was released. It was published last year, and it sells really well.
And what's this book about?
It's called Crypto Coins. It talks about not just Bitcoin, but it gives a comparison, a little overview, not a complete overview, that's impossible. Yeah, but it gives you an idea what different type of coins
well, how cryptocurrency is different than a Bitcoin.
For instance, yeah.
Bitcoin being the original, the anomaly.
Exactly. And it's a very practical book. The first book is more like why do we need it? So maybe half of the book is about the flaws of the monetary system, and Bitcoin comes into the play why we need that. The second book is more like a very practical guide. How to store your Bitcoins and what kind of frauds there can be. It's very practical thing for beginners also. I mean, I always like to write for entry level.
Sure.
So, and the first book was, selling absolutely okay, but in the market I was very skeptical about Bitcoin. Then all the media said, Bitcoin wasn't at the failed high of last year, and now it was crazy of Bitcoin. So, and that reflects in book sales. And the good news is that we're now translating the book into English and Spanish, hopefully also Russian, because we have a partnership with Cointelegraph, and they will distribute the book also internationally.
So education in the name of blockchain. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
So, which is not my main activity. My main activity at the moment lies in the films. I really love doing these films.
Tell us about your films.
Yeah.
Tell us about your film company.
Well, we do. It's called BitFilm, but we have that name since 1999. So,
excellent.
But since 2012, we made a first film in this industry. We made for Bitcoin.de, Bitcoin Germany. And the way we do it, most of the stuff is animated. Not all of sometimes we work with actors, depending on the topic, right? So, and we don't have any employees. We have a worldwide network of animators and filmmakers. They're in India and South America and Eastern Europe. Usually the budgets are relatively low, so work with people who are really good at what they're doing. But
people who are enthusiastic about what they want, who make a contribution.
We pay them well, like for their standards. Yeah, like I think for India we pay absolutely okay, but we couldn't afford to pay German animators, because the German taxes are too high.
So that's the genius of having this international collaboration.
Yeah, it works absolutely well, and the great thing for me is I can do it from my. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't touch this.
That's all right.
The great thing for me is I can do it from where I am. I can direct these films when I'm on the beach in Colombia. I just need Wi-Fi. That's the only thing.
What are the themes that you want to touch in these films?
Well, we work for clients. Yeah, so the clients pays us to do it, and usually there's always this educational part. So, for instance, the very first film for Bitcoin.de, like 80% of the film was what is Bitcoin, and 20% was what is exactly Bitcoin.de doing. So it's usually these explainer videos. We try to be always a bit different. Yeah? There are many of those explainer videos who kind of all look the same and drawing hand and other. We try to be a bit more, creative and have a high production value and really do something new all the time. So, but they're commercial films. Yeah, they're there to serve.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they're there to serve the purpose of the client. We did one thing. It was a series of 12 episodes. We had sponsors, but we didn't talk that much about the sponsor. That was really about like the nuts and bolts of Bitcoin and crypto. What's a blockchain? What's mining?
What's the title of the film? You give us the title of it so we can look it up.
Those you can go and watch it on bitfilm.com. On the website we have all the films.
Bitfilm.com. And that's just bitfilm.com.
And the series I just mentioned is called Captain Draken's Bitcoin Show. Captain Draken's it's a dragon. It's a lucky dragon. He has a sidekick, which is Nick the Parrot. It's a crossing between a parrot and a rat. And they talk about all kinds of things. So it's a little bit like a TV show, 3D animated. It's kind of funny, quite nice. And we did 12 episodes of that. At the moment, we're doing a series for Dash, because we're not doing only Bitcoin. Yeah, I'm agnostic. I like the competition.
I think most people are. Most true enthusiasts are really agnostic about it because they want to see that things succeed.
There are Bitcoin maximalists who say there's only Bitcoin, nothing else. I'm just a little bit lazy. I actually wrote my book, Crypto Coins, to have a reason to really go deeper into all the other so-called altcoins. I don't like that term that much because there's so many of them, and then to follow all that and to always read about it, it's a lot of work. And
the idea that coins compete against each other in some win, some fail, that sounds so healthy.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is so much like life itself.
This is Friedrich August von Hayek. This is his 1976 book, The Denationalization of Money, the introduction of a free competition of currencies. At that time, nobody took it really seriously because how would you do that? But that's what we have now, and that's a great thing. So I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I mean, of course, Bitcoin has this huge network effect and a competitive advantage.
Well, it's like the brand. In your book, you talk about Bitcoin, but you're really talking about blockchain and the underlying technologies, the distributed ledger technologies.
Sure.
But Bitcoin is like the flag for that.
It has lost its dominance last year. I mean, it was always like 89% of the market. Now it's in the range of like 30-40%. So something has changed.
Well, because it's very simple. It's a very simple market mechanism that doesn't have a whole lot of dimension to it.
Well, I think the network effect is very strong in money. I mean, you want to use the money that everybody else uses. Yeah, I think network effect in money is even stronger than, let's say, in social media. Mm-hmm. So Bitcoin definitely has an advantage, but of course they can lose it. Or I don't know who is Bitcoin.
Some cryptocurrencies or issues of cryptocurrencies are interested in keeping the value of their cryptocurrency steady. So these cryptocurrencies can be used to purchase services, to be used without rapid, wild fluctuations, which make them difficult to use to pay for goods and services within a particular ecosystem.
I don't see that as a huge problem. I mean, as long as they go up, nobody will complain. Yeah, when they go down,
when things go up, they go down. I mean, this fluctuation is.
No, that's not true.
All right.
That's not true. I mean, if something grows, and if it grows because everybody wants to use it, I mean, the usage of computers and smartphones and all that has not gone down. Yeah, we don't talk about fashion. Yeah, we don't talk about this kind of short-lived trend. We talk about disruption. We talk about. I mean, now like a tiny percentage of the world population uses cryptocurrencies, and this will go up and up and up until it reaches, I don't know, 70, 89%. I mean, has there been any downfall in internet usage since the early 70s? No, of course not. Maybe a little dip in 2001 with the dot-com boom, but no, I think if it's a good, useful thing, people will use it, and it will just spread and spread and spread. This whole thing about tulip bubble, I think this is all not properly observed. I mean, it's just a very steep, it's an exponential growth curve, and exponential growth curves look like that. And okay, they have some bumps, but I see. I think we're just at the beginning.
So to differentiate between speculation and the usage, the widespread usage, there are good computer companies and there are crappy computer companies. There are technology companies that produce a product that is inferior and some that is better. The whole fight between Microsoft and Apple, which is better, which is not. It's not about the fluctuation in the value of computing.
No, I mean, of course, many computer companies have died and have gone bankrupt, but in general, I mean, people still buy computers. People
live online now.
So, and I'm very sure that people will use digital cash systems.
We already do use digital cash systems, but they're tied to fiat.
We don't use caches because cash, in my definition, is not that you can touch it, but it's anonymous. That you cannot track it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If it's an account and the government can look into it and the government can freeze it and all that, then it's not cash. Cash is if I can give that node and nobody can track it. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea of digital cash that is untraceable and it's really secure and really private. That's
okay. So further to that idea, can you help us understand the difference between untraceable transactions and transactions that are completely audible on the blockchain network? I mean, any transaction that's been made, it can be audited and traced. It's part of the nature of the distributed ledger, right?
Well, it's certainly true for Bitcoin and certainly many other crypto coins, and that is a weak point.
Why is that a weak point? Isn't that a point of transparency?
Well, transparency. The government should be transparent.
But they're not.
I know. But transparency is not. I mean, my money, my behavior in money, whom I send money to, and how much and when. That's my private business, and it shouldn't nobody else's. So I think that's a fact. So we talk about privacy, and privacy is absolutely crucial for freedom and for free society. So and that's definitely a weak point in the Bitcoin blockchain. I mean, probably people work on that, but then all these new coins like Zcash, Monero, Dash to a certain degree, Zencash, probably a number of others that are much better in that respect. And I don't know, maybe they introduce that to Bitcoin too someday because it's so important.
But isn't from many people's perspective, the transparency of these coins, the ability to be audited, is part of the mechanism that makes it interesting, that makes it makes us trust the use of these coins because other people are aware of it. So we've eliminated the third party, we've eliminated the bank or the third party transaction helper, but we still rely on this medium and its ability to be verified as a medium for trust between parties that do not know each other.
Of course, it should be verified. I mean, we don't talk about. Of course, there should be the consensus.
I mean, I'm trying to explore the relationship between privacy and transparency.
No, what I don't think that makes sense is that anybody can look up some Bitcoin address and see how much money is on that, and of course, we don't know who has sent that money. But of course, it's not that difficult to find that out. I mean, many
someone
people
who's dedicated to doing that.
I mean, for instance, I send Bitcoin addresses via email many times. I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should encrypt my emails. But some people they write a blog and say, hey, if you like my blog, please donate some money to this address, and then they're not private anymore. And then we could track it and see that it's attached to that person. So I'm very much in favor of like these anonymous coins, these zero knowledge proofs and all that. I don't understand how the cryptography works. I'm not a mathematician, but I'm absolutely
ideally users shouldn't have to be mathematicians or IT specialists.
Absolutely.
They should be people involved in the thing that they have passion with, their businesses, their creative passions, and to be able to use these cryptocurrencies to do their business, to have economic activity.
But I think the initial thing was this cash or not cash. I mean, many people, for them, cash is something they can touch, which makes sense. But we live in a digital age, and it's great that we can send some money. Not, of course, we could put a bank in an envelope and send it to the...
We can't send money because there's intermediaries that want to take a chunk of this, the banks.
Exactly, and it's controllable, it's stoppable. Governments can freeze bank accounts, all these nasty things that we really don't want. And it should be unblockable, unstoppable, and that's doable. And the question, of course, does it have the same qualities as cash? Because I mean, cash is.
Can we know the answer to this question before there's a convergence of cryptocurrencies? Before there's a point where people are using them as cash? Right now, they're sort of at a novelty period where this enthusiasts use it, but everybody else uses digital cash, fiat cash.
Well, I use it all the time. I mean, but that's due to the nature of my business. I mean, the clients pay in crypto. I pay my people in crypto. I mean, they sit in India, they sit in Argentina. I wouldn't send a bank transfer.
Of course, but the average guy who wants to go to Starbucks and get a latte, they're not going to pay with Bitcoin. They're not going to pay with cryptocurrency.
Not yet, no. I mean, with Bitcoin at the moment, it doesn't make sense because of
now. Imagine there's a period where that period is coming. What will be the hallmarks? What will be the characteristics of the moments that lead up to that? This convergence where where retailers are eagerly accepting cryptocurrencies.
Well, I think it will probably first happen in international trade. I mean, there's no question. If I want to pay something,
because that's where the biggest block is, right? That's the biggest.
I mean, of course, not many people use that, but for instance, somebody like I use it all the time, and of course, it's absolutely obvious that I pay my animator in Argentina in crypto. And then of course, she has a problem in changing back to peso, and she loses money. I think she would love to be able to pay directly with a crypto in Argentina. In Argentina, it's of course more and more popular.
Well, it's because people want to save in crypto in Argentina because of the sliding of the fiat there.
Sure. Yeah. So I think it's not that urgent problem in our countries that you want to pay in like the everyday things. In Venezuela, it's a difference. Venezuela, Zimbabwe, these countries with a completely. I mean, our company is a failure. But there it's more obvious that it's failure. So there I think cryptocurrency will more easily come into the role.
It will take root in these countries where
it's already happening as far as I know. I mean, I haven't traveled to Venezuela, but as far as I know from people there, it's really like used now in day-to-day business because you don't want to carry around all these stacks of Bolivar notes, and it will happen. It's usually always like with these innovations. the early adopters, I think, oh, it will happen very soon, and then everybody else says, oh yeah, wait and see, and then it takes a little longer than you expect. But then, after a while, it goes much faster than everybody expected. Just look at the usage of the internet and mobile phones. I remember very well in the early 90s when I was talking about email and website, everyone said, yeah, Aaron, your cyber stuff, haha, who needs that? It's just for freaks. And well, now everybody uses this. It's not, and the same is happening now with exactly the same is happening now with crypto. Yeah, it's the same arguments even. Yeah, oh, isn't that used for criminal things and illegal?
I was going to ask that because it seems to be an ideal form. Cryptocurrency seems to be an ideal form of money laundering. They're untraceable.
What's money laundering? That's just a term that's invented by government to come up with something so they have a pretext to control the money. Yeah?
Really?
So, yeah, I mean, if you want to do something against terrorism, yeah, I mean, there are many things you can do against terrorism, but the money funding thing, and I mean, that's
what I'm talking about is money derived from criminal activity.
And what's criminal activity? I mean,
murder
is a criminal activity, and
selling drugs or supplying drugs.
So, I mean, I'm not a drug user, not at all.
So it doesn't affect us.
But
but can we talk about
it? You can easily, let's see, prohibition in the US from 18 to 33. There was a lot of organized crime.
Prohibition here in Russia as well. Also a complete and total.
It always happens if you criminalize something that people use, yeah, whether you like it or not, yeah. We may dislike alcohol, but people will drink alcohol, so that will be this illegal business. And so you will create this black market, and you will create a lot of crime around it. And the same happens with cocaine or the other drugs. So you can look at Portugal. Yeah? Portugal has decriminalized drugs, and the drug usage has gone down, and cities are much more secure, there's less crime. I mean, that's the way to do it. So it's not about like criminalizing things.
So what we see here is we see that cryptocurrencies have a political effect.
They're the most political thing I think about. I mean, they will change so many things. They will change the way societies are organized. Not just cryptocurrencies. I mean, that's probably the span. But
the flagship concept of money will change, and this will change the way we're organized on a fundamental level.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about regulation. If cryptocurrencies are fully independent, then the organization becomes, of course, free market based, and then. What about other regulations, related regulations to this? Do the crypto society, terrible word, terrible idea, the users of cryptocurrencies, do they organize themselves? If there's no government to say what to do, the rules are formed by default?
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, cryptocurrencies are regulated. They're very regulated by the code. I mean, everything's in the code, all the rules are there, and if the rules have to be changed, there's some discussions about it, yeah. The governance problem is definitely an issue, but it's not that we need the governments to do it, we need governance, yeah, inside, self-organization, that's definitely the right term. I mean, the thing is, the monetary system that we have now, yeah, the reason why there have to be policemen around is, I mean, who guarantees, I mean, I have $1,000 on my bank account, yeah? But the bank can just put it on zero. Yeah?
Yes,
they can just do it.
And in fact, they often do.
Well, it never happened to me, but
that's happened
the
only many times.
Only reason why they don't is because, somebody will enforce it if they do. So that has to be controlled because you have to otherwise trust somebody who could abuse that. This is not possible in Bitcoin, so there's no reason for having any laws because there is no middleman who can steal my money. It's not possible. So the rules are already in the code. So there's no necessity for this super regulation by some by external forces.
The question becomes, what becomes the function of government if the control and issuing of money is no longer in their sphere?
Well, the whole idea of government is, I think it has never worked well. Often it has worked extremely badly. Yeah?
Well, it's considered a necessary evil. Is it considered a necessary evil? But is it necessary?
Not, of course not. Maybe it was necessary in the past, but it's definitely not necessary in the present and the future. Because so many things that so far we needed some trusted middleman. Let's say buying a house. Yeah? I mean, of course, I don't want that anybody pretends that he owns that house, takes the money, and then he doesn't really own the house, and I have no money. So there needs to be some mechanism.
The government is a guarantor of rights in this case.
Yeah, the notary service and the I don't know the word in English for that. Yeah, that is a registry, and it's all the land titles, all the house, and somebody keeps that. And so far, the only way to organize such a thing was to have some kind of authority, central authority. Now we don't need it any longer. We have the blockchain, so we can do all these things where it's important that it's public and transparent and immutable. Yeah? But so far there was this potential corrupt government official. You know, and if you bribed him, all of a sudden, then he would change the registry.
Well, the whole idea of this fiat currency is basically government-sanctioned generation of wealth by a particular group of people.
Well, money is another example, because money was created by the market. Yeah, money was not invented by governments. Money was.
I'm talking specifically about the fractional reserve system that underlies the fiat currencies that we use today.
Exactly.
The banker goes in and he doesn't have any money, but the government allows him to make money by printing.
Yeah, out of nothing. Yeah.
So
I mean, that's
so if we take this power away from the government, what is the government left to do? I mean, who's going to clean the streets? Who's going to run
street cleaners?
Well,
I mean, this system, who will build the roads? Yeah, who will build the roads? Companies that are specialized in building the roads. The question is, who will pay these companies? That's the question, not who will build the roads. Who will pay the road building companies?
Okay, great.
And now the thing is, if we want a road to be built, yeah, of course there are mechanisms to pay for that. Yeah, I mean, it's the most stupid way to give somebody the right to rob money from everybody else and then spend that money.
So you're talking taxation. Taxation.
I talk about robbery, yes.
So taxation and robbery, in your view, is the same?
Well, there's this philosophical question: is taxation robbery or is it theft? Maybe it's a mixture. It depends on how. I mean, sometimes you buy a drink and you're not even aware how much taxes are in that. And somebody, the government tells me, okay, you pay me this and that money, otherwise you go to jail. So one is a little bit more like robbery, one is a bit more like theft. It doesn't really matter. It's criminal anyway, and it's not. It doesn't work because I mean I don't think that politicians are bad people. It's just if I give you the right to make with my money whatever you want to do, I guess you will not be very stingy with that. Yeah, we'll just spend it, and if you misspend it, okay, it's not your money. It's natural. People are very responsible when it comes to their own property, and when they are, when they are. How do you say that? When they have to report for that. Yeah? But the politicians don't. Yeah, they get elected.
They're not accountable.
They're not accountable. That was the word. Exactly. Thank you. It's not my first language. Sometimes I.
Yeah, you're doing great. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
But this whole system. I mean, you give some people the power to steal from others, then they spend that money at will, and then they're not even accountable, and then they. There's still the story of the airport in Berlin. It never gets finished. And the ones who started this whole business. They're not even in power anymore, and nobody's accountable. There's so much money being wasted on that. This system, I mean, it's proven that it doesn't work, and sometimes it works very, very badly, like let's say Venezuela, but even Germany, which works kind of okay, but it could work so much better.
Germany is a model for many countries. Germany is
but look at what really happens. The German government is a very bad government. Yeah, there's so many.
Are you talking in terms of waste?
Waste, I mean, just abuse of money. I mean, this whole idea of somebody has the right to steal money from somebody else, spend it, and then it's not accountable, it's a bad system. And okay, maybe there was no alternative, but now there is. Now we can absolutely trade. I mean, let's say we want to build the road, and then everybody can chip in something, and all the money is locked in that crypto account, and nobody can take it away unless the road is really built, and then everybody's happy. I mean, the model that I have in mind is much more, let's say a community that owns different flats in a house. Yeah. So of course the community of
syndicalism.
Yeah, I mean, of course not everybody wants to always call the plumber and something. Of course, you would hire a managing company to take care of the house. Yeah, and you would hire that company, you would give them a certain budget, you would pay them for doing their job, and that's the role of a government. Government is a bad word. Maybe let's talk about management. Yeah, let's say we have a free private city, and of course we want some city management to do certain jobs. Yeah, call the road companies and make sure they're being paid. But if the management doesn't deliver, of course we will fire them, and not like every 4 years in an election. But no, I mean if they don't do the job, we fire them immediately and say, okay, we hire somebody else. So they're not in power. We are in power.
So you're basically saying that there's a completely different form of social organization that is a natural follow-up of the reorganization of money.
I think so, yeah. And I think it's good because.
Do you think that the fiat and the crypto systems can coexist? Can they work together?
Well, they will coexist. They are coexisting at the moment, and of course there's a lot of traction. Yeah, at the moment you have to change your crypto to fiat, and that sucks. It would be so much better to have like a pure system, but of course we have to live with that for a while. I mean, probably not that much longer. I mean, probably the euro area could be advanced, yeah, because the euro will not survive very much longer. Maybe the dollar will have some more time, but the euro, how many years do you give the euro? 1, 2, 5, I don't know. So better get out of it, right? So that's interesting because then we can experiment with alternatives, and maybe there will be cryptocurrencies we can immediately take over. So I hope it will take a little more while so that
people can prepare, people can get ready.
Yeah, I mean we're still a little bit in, it's still early into it, but I mean the ecosystem is getting more and more mature. So I think at this stage we can probably replace the now. Well, okay, maybe this thing is still too slow. I think we have to have something like the Lightning Network, something like the second layer.
Well, this level of convenience established by the technology, the Lightning Network.
It would take a few more years. I
will allow people to have a very low threshold of entry. Right now, we live in a world of instantaneous communications, instantaneous this stuff, instantaneous this. We are a world that is very impatient. We want it now. Yeah. We can take we can click on our internet and get our answer now, and so we see money the same way. Mm-hmm. And so, in many ways, it's a very high bar for technology to get to the point where, for cryptocurrencies to be completely fluid, to integrate completely fluidly, we have to overcome any kind of pay. You have to be an instant choice. Do you pay with bitcoins, or do you pay with your cryptocurrency, or do you pay with cash? As long as it's no difference in the speed of the transaction, then it doesn't matter. So we're talking the complete convergence will be this point where the speed of that transaction is either at the same level as fiat cash now.
Yeah, I agree, but on the other hand, I mean, there's so many smart people working on this. I mean, right here, what we heard about how BANKEX
but the lesser smart people, the people who are not so smart, are the vast majority. The people, the late adopters.
I'm not talking about the users. So I'm just talking about the people who are smart enough to imagine how a system should work that everybody, even my grandmother, can use it. Yeah. And I know that so many people are working on it. I mean, I'm really looking forward to what the Dash guys are doing. This what they call evolution, where they really have the ambition to make it as easy as like sending a text message or something. So I haven't seen it yet. Because software always takes a little long, but this could be a breakthrough. I'm really looking forward to all those second layer, like Lightning Network or similar things that really speed up transactions. Of course, it's too slow at the moment. It's too expensive, obviously. But then, I mean, I think we are there where the internet was maybe 94. Just before AOL opened up, and I think 95 was the year when the internet really became popular, and we are not there yet. But let's see what 2008.
I think it'll go. I think it'll go very fast because of the layers of infrastructure we already have, and the level of expectations we have, and also the pressure that we have from the failure of systems that we're using. For example, the default use of computers was not predicated on the failure of writing or the failure of other forms of communication. It was simply better, and when it became easier, people adopted. Yeah. But we're actually in a crunch right now where fiat economics has put the world through turmoil recently. With the crashes, the fluctuations of currency prices and stuff like this. It's always some kind of issue that is more or less pressing. I think the thing that drives people to use cryptocurrencies.
What's your question?
I'm trying to get to the point where we ask about the factors that cause that speed. What's going to make these things happen quickly?
Well, you can observe that the speed is always increasing. I mean, the time when the radio became like in every household, and TV.
Yeah, but that took 30 years.
No, or even more. And this period is how long an innovation takes place. And then the internet the computer took a while. The internet was much faster. The mobile phone was even faster.
What about a crisis?
Yeah, crisis can be good. Crisis can be healthy. But I mean, I'm talking about the innovation speed, and we can observe that it increases. So, and also the speed. Now everybody talks about cryptocurrencies. Like 2-3 years ago, nobody knew about it. And now everybody asks me, taxi driver wants to invest. So, okay, this could be also a sign of maybe the next crash will come, but it's also a sign that there is a lot of public awareness for that.
Right.
So, and now it's really in the hands of the people who work on these innovations. I'm very optimistic that all these things like networks and user interfaces that really make the user experience much easier. This has to happen, but I'm very positive that it will happen, that so many good people work on that, and people want it. So, and there's a lot of money to be made with it, so, which is good. So
it's the proper incentive, right?
I think we are at some kind of tipping point where we'll look in 5 years, we'll look back into whatever, early 2000s.
It happened here. It happened at this time, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look back and say, wow, can you imagine? Then we still have this like banknotes would work to a bank. What is a bank, Daddy? Can you explain what a bank is? What did the government do? And then they built the roads.
They didn't have emails back then.
Yeah. I mean, all this now it sounds funny, yeah. But now it would be funny to explain to some kid what happened to the world before the internet. They couldn't imagine. Yeah, they connect with everybody and they use all these apps, and for them it's very hard to imagine a world without that. And I think equally in maybe 5, 10, 20 years, our kids will not be able to imagine the world we live in now with all those politicians who with so much power.
On the contrary, the blockchain world might have developed beyond the point where we can imagine it right now. Yeah. Where they're talking about something completely different.
They will laugh about it. Yeah, they will not believe us. Yeah, it's like, Daddy, come on. There was really a wall built inside Berlin. Come on, I mean, I don't believe you. Yeah? I think it will be similar like that.
All right, Aaron, it's been great talking with you.
My pleasure.
Really, really fascinating to hear your views on all these subjects.
So shall we open the vodka? Maybe later.
I don't drink. So.
Okay, fine.
All right.
Thank you so much. Good. Thank you.
So I
hope there was something in it.
There was actually quite a bit of stuff. You actually covered a lot of the stuff I wanted to ask. Just talking. I didn't have to ask questions.
Sorry for that.
No.